Any change of government has to be through the ballots and not through the barrel of the gun or through insurrection or through any other unconstitutional means.
The efforts at turning around the economy and the successes recorded were also commended.
We reported that there was good progress being made, that the effort was going to continue to ensure that the interventions and measures to ameliorate the high cost of living for individuals, for the agricultural sector, for industry, for small-scale businesses, were going to continue to be implemented with all efforts needed for success.
After the council meeting, state governors also had their private meeting with the president on various issues of the nation. From the State House, Musbah Nanwahab, NTA News.
The federal government is being urged to remain committed towards realizing the positive impacts of the fuel subsidy removal on the nation's economy. This was the focus of the Federal University Gusau Second Faculty of Management and Social Sciences Conference, with the theme Insecurity, Post-Fuel Subsidy Removal and Sustainable Development in Nigeria. Jamilu Ibrahim has more.
Second International Conference of the Faculty of Management and Social Sciences, Federal University Gusau Zamfara State, has drawn participants from across Nigeria and beyond, most of whom joined the event via Zoom. The lead paper one, titled Insecurity and Sustainable Development in Nigeria, was presented by a representative of Professor Yusuf Adamu of the Bayero University, Kano. The presenter, who tries to establish a nexus between insecurity and sustainable development, also identifies social, economic, and general effects of insecurity on the nation's development. On his part, a renowned economist, Professor Hussein Malami of the Osmanu Danfodio University, Sokoto, presented the second lead paper with the title Post-Fuel Subsidy Removal and Sustainable Development. The presenter, who discussed the negative and expected positive impacts of the oil subsidy removal, said the former have already begun to manifest, while the latter are being expected. Chairman of the conference and Secretary to Zamfara State Government, Abubakar Muhammad Nokwada, was represented at the event, speaks on some of the measures being put in place by Zamfara State Government to address the prevailing security challenges in the state.
We believe that their ideas will be harnessed together and will be released in form of a communique to policymakers and government to key in and see how we can get out of these development challenges.
Many more papers are built to be presented at the conference, which lasts for 2 days. In Gusau, Jamilu Ibrahim, NTA News.
Bit on health now. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has declared Mpox as a public health emergency of continental security. Uche Ugochukwu reports that the declaration was made during an online media briefing on Tuesday.
Mpox, formerly called monkeypox, is a highly infectious disease which scientists from the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have been alarmed by the speed at which a new strand is spreading. Starting from the Democratic Republic of Congo, the virus, which can cause lesions across the whole body, has spread to other African countries.
In the next 2 weeks, Africa CDC, working together with all partners in one coordination mechanism that we decided to put in place, will be able to finalize a joint response plan coming from all national country plans that will be submitted to the emergency committee, to the ECG for review.
The declaration of a public health emergency by the Africa CDC will help governments coordinate their response and potentially increase the flow of medical supplies and aid into affected areas. It will also enable health leaders outside Africa to be monitoring the situation to assess the risk of the outbreak spreading further.
What this means to Nigeria is that we have to raise our level of alertness and at the same time develop our efforts at curtailing the impact, of this disease, in short, to mitigate the impact of the outbreak, even if it occurs here now. But since no case or very few cases have been seen here, everything must be done to prevent new cases from coming into the country.
Mpox spreads from animals to humans and between people through close contacts with someone who is infected, including through sex, skin-to-skin contact, and talking or breathing close to another person. It can cause symptoms such as fever, muscle aches, and lesions across the body, and if left untreated, can be deadly. There are two main strains of the virus known to exist, the milder one that caused the global outbreak in 2022 and more deadly strain endemic in Central Africa, which is behind the new recently discovered variant in DR Congo. There are 3 vaccines that exist, but only people at risk or who have been in close contact with an infected person are usually able to have it. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
Working towards tracking and monitoring the level of its carbon reduction initiative in every sector. As a Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Uche Naji says the process will not only assess the impact on climate change, but economic growth and employment opportunities under government's green economic policies. And Joseph Olsen reports that this was at the presentation of tracking and monitoring technology in Abuja.
Nigeria is committed to cutting emissions by 20% by 2030 as it joins the global community target of net zero emission by 2060. The adoption of the National Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Policy in 2015 to promote use of solar, wind, biomass, and hydropower sources remains one of the major initiatives. But without adequate tracking and monitoring, experts say measuring progress made remain elusive.
We've seen that data reliability, data authenticity, data auditability, and also in terms of the transparency they've been major issues, across Africa. So this technology now have been developed to resolve the problems in real time and also provide a much more better trust and transparency in terms of the emission reduction across the entire African continent.
Now the federal government wants to assess its efforts towards reducing emission and policies on the green economy as it collaborates with Netzen to develop a tracking and monitoring tool called Closed Carbon.
The Green Bond Initiative, by mobilizing over 57 billion naira in green finance, we have funded critical low-carbon projects that are transforming our economy and creating jobs.
That we have made our accessibility to our platform free, where we deploy all our devices to businesses who are trying to reduce carbon. So what we go there is that we install our devices, help them to track and and reward them for offsetting carbon.
Having an idea of the progression and value of policies implemented so far to experts here will also be a shining light on other economic opportunities. In Abuja, Joseph Olsen, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Nigeria is set to activate a $2.5 billion carbon market. This is as the Intergovernmental Activation Plan Committee is putting structures on ground to ensure Nigeria leads the market in Africa. Benny Adams reports that the 2-day brainstorming session in Abuja was also targeted at growing revenue from the non-oil sector.
With growing population comes emissions, and addressing such emissions through removing, reducing and preventing greenhouse gas emissions, among other pollutants that affect the environment, comes a reward. Stakeholders here say carbon is currency. This is as the United Nations and partners support climate change adaptation and mitigation activities across the world. And for Nigeria, $2.5 billion is at stake as trading in carbon market takes center stage.
How do you ensure that your economy, while decarbonizing, is still able to sustainably grow? And so we would ensure that Nigeria gets the best framework plan that we need.
Carbon credit becomes an instrument that for companies, for institutions that have adopted a responsible approach to protecting the environment, be it whether from a voluntary perspective or a compliance perspective or aligning with the Paris Agreement, it then becomes an opportunity for you to get value from that responsibility.
Compliance maybe for the larger emitters, where it's a lot easier to have those MRV systems in place. And then we could still have a voluntary market or more like an Article 6 type mechanism that still allows voluntary systems.
Carbon markets in itself is great in generating income for the government and for the country, etc. But we really want to ensure that the most vulnerable in society are able to also partake of this market.
Now we are looking at other alternatives that will help us to, have a revenue generation as well as creating an enabling environment for us to reduce this carbon emission.
At the end of consultations, a carbon registry is expected. This is to determine number of players, credit being sold, and a budget to determine volume and value of transactions. In Abuja, Benny Adams, NTA News.
You're watching the news at 10 on NTA News 24. More reports after this break. Stay with us.
My vision for our country is one of a just and prosperous nation where each person may enjoy the peace, freedom, and meaningful livelihood that only democratic good governance can provide. One that is open, transparent, and accountable to the Nigerian people.
Welcome back. Naseni offers 50% discounts for CNG conversion as FCCPC to engage market leaders over excessive pricing. Details of this and more on Business News with Vivian Izadifi.
The Executive Vice Chairman, Chief Executive Officer of the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure says the agency will offer a 50% discount to drivers who want to convert their vehicles using the newly launched MyCNG app. Khalil Halilu made us known while presiding over the launch of the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative's Conversion Incentive Program for the rideshare sector alongside the introduction of the app at Nasina's CNG Engineering Training and Conversion Facility in Abuja. He emphasized the significance of PICNG in Nigeria's gas revolution, stating that the initiative had quickly become central to discussions on the nation's energy future.
CNG offers a guaranteed answer to this clamor, and this is why Nasini is very determined to focus on this area, bringing our operational principles of collaboration, creation, and commercialization very speedily.
He stressed that the initiative was a response to the current economic challenges, offering a viable solution to reduce the cost of living for Nigerians. Meanwhile, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission says it has plans to engage market leaders and stakeholders in the supply and distribution chain to address exploitative pricing of consumer goods amid rising inflation. FCCPC's Executive Vice Chairman Tunji Bello acknowledged the high inflation rate but noted that prices charged are disproportionate for imported products and excessive for local commodities. Bello said such unfair practice is prevalent in the retail segment, where some market associations engage in price fixing at the expense of consumers. According to the National Bureau of Statistics' latest report, inflation rates rose across the board in June 2024, although at a slower pace. The headline inflation rate increased to 34.2% in June 2024, up from 22.8% in June 2023 and 34.0% in May 2024. With business, Vivian Izadifi.
Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, has signed performance bonds with heads of agencies and parastatals under his ministry, urging them to work towards sustaining the tempo in communicating the policies of the Renewed Hope agenda. This was at a retreat for ministry's directors, heads of its agencies and parastatals in Abuja. Salihu Gwanara reports.
On the streets of Abuja, the voices of these Nigerians are becoming louder on what they describe as a paradigm shift in information management.
What drives any government in Africa is propaganda.
The people are getting more enlightened, and I think they are really coming out to tell people what the government is doing.
It's absolutely fantastic. I have nothing to fault the minister for. I have nothing. Honestly, in terms of information management, I don't have any fault for it. He has not defaulted in any way.
These submissions from the public and the signing of the performance bond at this sectoral retreat on presidential priorities and ministerial deliverables are a boost to enable the ministry to sustain its transformation in terms of information dissemination.
Transparency plays a crucial role in fostering and reinforcing that trust. I want to use this opportunity to remind us all that as the Minister of Information, we must understand the efforts that the government is putting into renewing hope as it has promised in the area of improved minimum wage, student loans, consumer credit, loans to big and small businesses, as well as different support grants. The government is also not resting on its oars regarding infrastructure and social projects around the country.
The Renewed Hope agenda is a beacon of progress and transformation, and it is incumbent on us to ensure that we effectively communicate its objectives and achievements to the Nigerian people.
The agencies assures that through their delivery task team, the ministry will remain top in propagating the policies of a renewed hope.
To make sure that we sustain public confidence in government and also disseminate information that will reach to the grassroots so that the government will be able to know exactly what the government is doing vis-a-vis. We also transmit the views and also public opinions to the government.
All of us, DGs, CEOs, we're going to take this information, extrapolate it down to our different directorates, and we're all going to be laser focused on carrying out the deliverables that have been placed before us.
There were presentations by resource persons, including the coordinator, Central Resource Delivery and Coordinating Unit. In Abuja, Saliu Gwanara, NTA News.
Didi Esther Wilson-Jack has taken over from Dr. Folashade Yemieson as the new head of the Civil Service of the Federation. While taking over, Didi Esther Wilson-Jack thanked God Almighty for taking her to the pinnacle of her career and appreciated President Bola Tinubu for the trust and confidence reposed in her to serve the nation, promising to honor the achievements of her predecessors by continuing and fast-tracking ongoing reforms initiatives in the service. She reiterated the maximum use of technology in driving transformation in the service and promised to maintain, enforce and deploy the core principles of the service, namely accountability, meritocracy, professionalism, loyalty and efficiency in all her dealings. The head of the Civil Service of the Federation, however, called on all stakeholders and civil servants to support the vision and mission of the service towards the realization of the renewed hope agenda of the present administration. Dr. Yemieson prayed God to sustain her successor and give her the necessary strength and wisdom to excel in the overall interest of the service and Nigeria in general. The host is a recipient of the National Honor of the Officer of the Order of the Niger and an alumni of the prestigious National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru. Controller General of Customs Adewale Adeni is advocating for a peer review mechanism among customs services of the ECOWAS sub-region to address miscellaneous challenges. while handing over as the Vice President of the World Customs Organization of West and Central Africa, he disclosed that the commitment of member states remains the only remedy to achieving success. Kunle Adeyeye reports.
The primary function of customs service of every country is to secure borders and facilitate trade. Nigeria's chief custodian of borders tells his counterparts that the challenges of insecurity and fragile borders are impeding trade in West and Central Africa. As he hands over the mantle of leadership as Vice President of World Customs Organization for West and Central Africa to Amadou Konate of Mali, he pinpointed a peer review mechanism approach as necessary.
The work and the activities of the Office of the Vice Chair requires the support of the government of the host country. I hope that your government would understand this and give you all the support that you need.
His successor enjoins the 24 member countries to unanimously engage in extensive consultations.
My dear colleague and brother Bashir, thanks to your dedication, your leadership, and your unfailing commitment, our organization has experienced a period of remarkable growth and innovation. Under your leadership, we have succeeded to overcome many challenges in which we can be proud.
Nigeria occupied the position of Vice President of World Customs Organization for West and Central Africa in 2022. Kunle Adeyeye, NTA News.
Corps Marshal Federal Road Safety Corps Shehu Mohammed has condemned the bad driving habits of some members of the public across major corridors of the nation. This was in reaction to the fatal crashes that occurred at Ajao opposite Bovas fuel station, as well as that of Malo, both on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway on 13th of August. Reports received at the national headquarters show that the Ibadan crash involved 35 people, out of which 17 sustained varying degrees of injuries, with 16 deaths recorded, while the Malu crash had 16 people involved and 12 lives lost, while 4 others were rescued with injuries. The Corps Marshal charged drivers and other road users to, as a matter of urgency, imbibe all road safety precautions and discard any temptation to contravene established road traffic rules. Towards promoting and protecting the rights of Nigerians in all sectors, a training workshop organised by the Public Complaints Commission has been held, which is designed to enhance the skills and capacities of workers so as to understand the importance of their roles and responsibilities. In collaboration with IHRO Africa, the workshop brought together key players to brainstorm on best investigative and diplomatic techniques when looking into human rights abuses and other unsavory practices. The intention being to complement the already well-established skills and capacity-building attributes of the Public Complaints Commission.
On work ethics, on investigation, on human rights abuse. So if we don't fit into this international standard, by this training, by this capacity building, how do we work? How do we measure up with our counterparts?
Nigeria is a very big nation, but we lack a lot of human rights challenges in our country. And I think with this partnership with PCC, we can form a good synergy to make Nigeria as one of the human rights observant country in the world.
You know, we are talking about sustainable capacity here, building people for a better future. And just like we said, the synergy, thank God that after the meeting has really shown that the synergies here is going to be very successful.
The theme of the workshop is enhancing Public Complaints Commission's investigative capabilities through alternative investigative diplomacy and capacity building. This is the news at 10 on NTA News24. We'll take another break. Stay with us.
Nigeria, a land of rich culture and diverse voices, where every voice matters. In times of disagreement, Let's choose dialogue over discord. Together, we can find solutions through understanding and respect. Let's build a stronger Nigeria, one conversation at a time. Dialogue, not protest. Unity, not division. Nigeria, united in dialogue.
The Ministry of Tourism is partnering with the private sector on a 3-day training on enhancing the capacity of tourism stakeholders in adapting to customers' changing needs. Speaking at the opening ceremony, Minister of Tourism Lola Adejohn urged the participants to leverage the opportunity to reposition the sector to contribute more to the nation's economy. Ekemini Williams reports.
2019, tourism reportedly contributed 5.7% to Nigeria's GDP growth, but by 2022, it had come down to about 3.6%. The drop is primarily attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic and the ripple effect. Nigeria's tourism sector has subsequently witnessed a significant shift in consumer behavior, from customized travel experience and itineraries to an increase in digital transformation. Lecturers at this 3-day training for stakeholders in the tourism industry say that factors such as customer trust, service branding, emotional intelligence, and improved technology have therefore become critical to meeting the changing demands of the industry.
You will be so frustrated that you will have to see the manager. Meanwhile, he has employed someone who is half-baked to do that same work. So our problem is actually in trying to manage what we want to pay our staff to do big jobs for us.
Customers should be seen as babies. You know how mothers handle their 7 months old babies and so on. They should be treated like babies. They want to be pampered. That is it.
Minister of Tourism Lola Adejohn, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Tourism, Mrs. Ibiana Roberts, says that in line with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, the ministry is poised to spearhead a paradigm shift in the tourism industry. The participants were therefore urged to make the best of the capacity building opportunity.
By enhancing capacities, we can ensure that our tourism offerings remain competitive, attractive, and responsive to the desires of modern travelers. Our goal is to remain at the forefront of the global tourism market.
The Federation of Tourism Association of Nigeria described the training as critical to the survival and sustainability of many businesses in the tourism sector after the setback caused by COVID-19 pandemic. In Abuja, Ekemini Williams, NTA News.
Prior to the launch of Pioneer Smart School Training Center in September 2024, the Ministers of Education inspected the facility located in Karachi community in the FCT. Zenret Dingmun reports that Professor Tahir Maman says the center will serve as a training hub for other institutions.
The journey to develop smart schools across the country did not start today, but the present administration is taking the course of education beyond the hills and valleys of the country. Karachi community, situated in the FCT, hosts this center, which is expected to help boost the needed development in the area. The facility, equipped with necessary technological learning tools, will cater to students from basic to secondary levels of education, as the minister encourages the teachers and administrators to maintain standards.
Part of the legacy this government is delivering to Nigeria, which is to make provision to allow for a digitalized, school system, and for people who are trained in the use of technology right from the beginning, from early child, as you have seen. Not only are you going to be involved in delivering, but also even developing what the students will be taught. So this is part of the uniqueness of this institution.
We have seen a lot of projects in order to expand the scope of the school. Hostels have been built,
and a lot is being done by FCT. We have states.
All right, here is where we pause the news. At this time, we are now going to cross over to our outside broadcasting crew for a live telecast. Please stay tuned.